Hi, I'm Danny Glover, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Xenophobia is a word that raises tension at various levels in our society. Recently in Gauteng, xenophobic violence flared up, mostly in Tshwane. Mayor Herman Mashaba has taken a hard line in dealing with illegal immigrants and also faced some criticism in doing so for his no-nonsense approach when it comes to obeying the law. However, regardless of this criticism, which many have their own opinions about, he did not refer to a dislike for foreigners, matching the groups of people who are bold in their sentiment towards foreigners. For a more in-depth discussion on this, Freek Robinson spoke to the MMC for Public Safety and Security, Michael Sun.
MMC, welcome. Do you say, as your mayor does, that the immigrants in South Africa are causing problems and they are holding the country to ransom and also the city?
Well, I think to an extent our executive mayor very unfortunately has been misquoted and taken out of context. I don't think ever, in his statements that he accused, migrants or foreign nationals to be criminals. He simply
but he said
stated
they were holding the country or the city to ransom.
Well, he simply stated what our current legislation says. And as the city, as the new incoming mayor, the law was there before he did. And if you would share the information on the Immigration Act, Section 49 says if anyone should enter the country illegally, it's committed to be an offence. So with that unfortunate misquoting and being taken out of context, I think the city's effort in assisting migrants, foreign nationals, have been overlooked. It's not really my function, but the city, under the Department of Health and Social Development, has a migrants help desk where we help the migrants, to settle, to address the issues. So there's a lot of effort that the city is initiating.
I'll come to that in a moment, but you had meetings also with the Africa Diaspora Forum, and they accuse you of standing by and actually fueling the violence.
No, that's absolutely nonsense. That's not true at all. We don't fuel any violence. We are against violence in the city. What we do is that from my Department of Public Safety, as I've said openly to the African Diaspora Forum, that when we are out there to protect, we don't ask of the nationality, we don't ask whether you got papers, but we do ask whether you are safe.
But it's a problem for you that people do not have papers, so you must ask them. You can't just simply act and not knowing who you act against.
Our core business within public safety for the Johannesburg Metro Police Department, it's threefold. It's crime prevention, it's bylaw enforcement, and traffic management. So even if our officers should have the suspicion one is in the country illegally, that officer still will have to take the person to an immigration office to have verified. So it's not for us to verify or comment whether the person is illegal or legal in the country. That function falls squarely with the Department of Home Affairs.
And you accuse them of actually not doing their job.
Well, we rather not use the word accuse. We believe that that function can certainly be beefed up.
Well,
it's
in the statement, the mayor himself said the blame must be squarely laid at the feet of the minister, Gigaba.
Yes. Well, the problem with that statement is that I do not tend to present the mayor in his statements, but it is a national competency, as you will understand. It's for the mayor to point out, perhaps on the intergovernmental level, to say that we've done our part, it's now time for you to do yours. And I don't think that's an incorrect statement.
Do you personally experience uncooperative kind of tendencies from government, in particular the Minister Gigaba?
I can share this with you. The mayor, I believe, on 3 occasions invited the Minister of Home Affairs to attend to a meeting. I don't think these meetings were accepted. So I think on that score, the mayor needs to perhaps work harder to get engagement with the minister.
You must work with the South African police as well. And how is that cooperation on the ground level panning out?
We are working very closely with the South African
For
Police
sure.
Services. Yes, for sure.
In a positive manner.
In fact, on the very topic that you're raising now, the xenophobic violence, we are part of a bigger body called the Gauteng Provincial Joint Operations Centre, where South African Police Services, together with JMPD and other law enforcement agencies, develop strategies and action plan to curb the xenophobic violence. So we have to work very closely together.
Do you have intelligence indicating why we have it now, and is it orchestrated, this violence?
We are getting a lot of information from the ground. The residents are feeding information to our JMPD officers on the ground, and that gets feedback to the nerve center. And we would like to think that the information coming from the public are reliable and something that we need to look at very seriously. And if there's any sort of threat of a violence, be it xenophobic or any type of violence, we need to address it immediately.
Do you have any indication or information about where this threat is actually going to play out next? What is the new flashpoint?
Well, the xenophobic violence, or so-called xenophobic attacks, for us, it's not new. We haven't seen new ways of a xenophobic attack. It's always associated with looting and other criminal conduct, which is very unfortunate. So we are looking at to address not only the violence or the possible violent situation, but more importantly, the violent and criminal elements that's hidden behind this so-called xenophobic attacks.
Even the former President Mbeki said only recently that he doesn't believe that this is actually actions against foreign nationals, but just people taking advantage of a situation and looting. Do you believe that?
Fred, I think that's a very true statement. With every single xenophobic violence we see, there's always looting, smash and grabs, damage to property, assault, being associated with this. And it's just very unfortunate that, there's that bigger or hidden criminal element within this banner of xenophobia. But out of the violence we've seen, there's every time, without failure, some looting, some smash and grabs of shops.
Now, do you have an immediate strategy to deal with this problem?
Our best strategy is that we need to keep our ears very close to the ground. So as soon as any violence potential services, we are there to curb it. And I think we are also working with the South African Police Services to protect the foreign-owned businesses, shops. I see there has been initiatives of helping foreign nationals moving their merchandise out of potential areas, and only to return them at a later stage when it's safe.
You alluded earlier to actually having engagements with various communities and institutions like the Africa Diaspora Forum and so on. Is that ongoing and part of your strategy?
We certainly like it, to see more meetings in the future. I personally believe that they are very valuable part of our communities, and they represent, all sorts of different African origin migrants to Johannesburg. So I think it's a very important role that they play, and certainly by engaging them to understand their needs, their challenges and their plights in the city such as Johannesburg, we are better to address these problems, on a holistic approach.
And what do you do in terms of giving information to them or helping them, at least in the interim?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, there is a migrant help desk set up by the city. I think through that, I've also made the recommendation that perhaps it would be a good idea for different nationalities to be assisting at this desk. Let's, for example, if somebody sits at this desk is a Congolese person and he speaks the dialect to help another Congolese resident in need, that would be certainly a very positive step forward.
And are you engaging national and provincial government all the time to find solution? Because some of these problems are socio-economic, of course.
Absolutely.
And therefore the prerogative of the national or the provincial government to deal with. But to what extent can you help to deal with it?
Fred, I think that the continuous engagement must not stop. We must not give up in engaging our counterparts in the provincial and national government. I think the immediate solution is to have the important political leaders and officials in those positions to engage with us at the city's government to find solutions, because there are national policies, there are national and provincial legislation which we as the city need to follow. So without that positive engagement, continuous engagement, we will be working in our own little silo. So that, for me, it's not a positive a step, but certainly, that engagement needs to be continuous with the national and provincial government.
If you must put your finger on one single problem, say this is actually delivering that spark to violence and the need that the people have.
My one finger, not used to be pointing, but maybe used to show, to identify the problem, is that we need to have a very clear, muddled, immigration policy and implementation. That's where I believe a lot of the voices come from within our community. So perhaps the national government, led by the president himself, need to come down to the ground level and see the problem and say to us, these are the solutions that we together, working with one another, together with the communities, can resolve. I think that's the important thing we need to address.
So if you have a magic wand and you can change things overnight, what would you tell the government to do?
Well, I would firstly change South Africa to be a safer country. And for me, my heart and my passion lies in public safety. I would certainly wish that we would see more support from the national government, more support from the provincial government on the public safety issues. We battle drugs, we battle armed robberies, we battle rapes in our city. A lot of these issues, we as the city can do so much. But I think with the national government and provincial government's assistance, we can certainly move so much more in this fight against crime.
What are you doing in practice actually to stem this tide of xenophobia in the country?
Well, firstly, I think education is very important. We go out there certainly educating that, a crime does not choose a race. Crime does not certainly choose a nationality. I always use the example that when a criminal attacks, he doesn't ask what nationality you are or where you are from. He's there for his criminal business. So I think education is very important. Our residents need to understand, a crime's a crime. Secondly, I think our immediate response to any sort of crime, including xenophobic, is that our officers are on the ground. They are on high alert as we speak. We need more feet on the ground as to have visible policing. We need to have that greater deterrence. We need to have proactive policing. And
so therefore there must be more policemen from the central government deployed here.
Well, not necessarily. I think it's more effective policing. You can deploy 1,000 police officers more, but when they are not effective, that's not really doing the job. I'm very happy to tell you that we're going to employ 1,500 more police officers within JMPD, and that certainly would boost our police force. But more importantly for me, that policing force, additional policing force, needs to be effective.
If I'm an ordinary South African walking the streets of Johannesburg and I say, MMC, it's your job to make sure that we are not endangered by these foreigners, by these illegals. They take our jobs, they rape our women, they give drugs to our children. What do you tell them?
I'll firstly say that you're not being intimidated or threatened by a foreign national, but you are intimidated, threatened and harmed by a criminal. So that's how I would define it. And I would look for that assistance from the community, because a lot of information are given to us, then leads us to successful arrests, busts. So in identifying with criminals, we need to perhaps take the filters away and see the criminals for criminals themselves and not see a nationality or skin color.
Do you have hope, because we have this every year, these tides of xenophobia? Do you really believe that it's possible to put an end to it now, to solve this problem forever?
I would certainly want to see that South Africa moving forward could really be done away with xenophobia violence. Xenophobia has no place in our democracy, has no place in our society. And we've come a long way in South Africa to be where we are now. And a lot of the achievements can only have been done through the assistance of our African brothers and sisters. So I think on that score, I would certainly want to say that I would do absolute my best together with my colleagues within the city to make sure that we don't see the flare-ups again. We'll certainly go out to communicate, to educate, to communicate with our residents to say that with this violence, we are not moving South Africa forward. In fact, we are taking ourselves backwards. And it's sad, it's very disappointing that this has to be on an annual basis, but I think the commitment from us is that we do not want to see this happening ever again.
Hi, I'm Jen Sue, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Like us on Facebook, joburgtoday.tv, and follow us on Twitter at Joburg Today also. Be sure to check out our playlist for more coverage on the city. And that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.